big news of the week is, of course, the massive, I would say unprecedented, but of course we've been through several of these waves now, surge of COVID. Yeah, that line on the right side of that graph I got up here is pretty steep. You don't have to be back in math class to realize that this is not the direction you want your hospitalizations to go. We're up over 1,300, so giant surge. It had kind of plateaued yesterday or the day before, but today, huge jump in hospitalizations. So we're up to a 3-day average of 1,326 across the state. I mean, our peak was only like around 2,000. So, I mean, we're well over halfway back up to where we were at the absolute worst of it around New Year's. Cases jumped a little bit. Looks like 7-day average is around 2,000 cases per day. So yeah, and of course, the question is, our bomber jacket wearing leader of our state, the guy who can, implement martial law and rein this virus in, what is he doing? Stuffing his face with s'mores down in Altus. I mean, it's like it would be a parody if it wasn't like so ridiculous. And I get it. Like, this is how he's been the whole time, but it's just like the old adage, donkey, kicks you once, shame, and shame on them. Anyway, whatever. I'm terrible at those things, but I mean, we don't need to keep redoing this. Like, at some point, we can admit that this isn't working. So anyway, that's Kevin's response. But I want to, before we jump into commentary, I wanted to pull up this. So the state health department, which is in a contract with a major PR firm in Oklahoma City, whose name just flew out of my head. Anyway, they're paying like $12,000 a month to this PR firm, and this is the crap we get. I mean, I'm just going to like pop this up real fast.
We are seeing a significant increase in COVID-19 cases and trends, due largely to the more contagious Delta variant, which has overwhelmingly impacted unvaccinated Oklahomans.
So it's Saxon PR that's doing this. And yeah, thanks. I remembered it right as I hit play. This video, I mean, not that we have the best setup here, but it's more because of financial limitations than anything else.
But we got $12 a month. That's what.
Say what? Yeah, exactly. We had $12,000 a month. I promise you, the setup would look a lot nicer. Like, Ron would have his own like mic in front of it. It would be great. But like, I mean, it's like they got the teleprompter too high because he's kind of like looking up like over the camera a little bit and like kind of straining. I mean, it's like a hostage video. I mean, it's like COVID's got a gun to his head and is like, say the bare minimum, man, say it. And like, and then this goes on for 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Like, what the hell? Like, what? Who is producing this shit? This needs to be like a 30-second spot or a minute tops of like, go to this website, get vaccinated now, wear your fucking mask, like, just reel it off, man. Like, you don't gotta nobody's watching this goofy, like, and now I am going to read my script about COVID. It's bad. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, just get an actor. Like, pay someone. It doesn't have to be Frye. He's obviously not good at it. Pay someone. Anyway, that's my rant on that.
So much. Okay, let's start with Kevin Stitt. Like, just 2 weeks ago, this motherfucker was eating caviar in Azerbaijan, and it was motherfuckers was dropping dead in the streets, and now he's talking about what he say, like the lieutenant governor dropped his marshmallows. So just fuck the Oklahomans dropping dead. You worried about dropping marshmallows, and he got the stupid picture of him biting into a s'mores. While we have one of the worst COVID outbreaks in the world. I am not being hyperbolic. We literally have like one of the top 5 or 10 worst COVID outbreaks in the world, and he's eating s'mores. And again, that goes to at some point, like, it's less about you can just be like a shitty governor and just not take your job seriously. But he goes beyond that, and it's devolved into sophomore trolling, and that's bad during normal times. It's devolved into sophomore trolling while Oklahomans are dying, right? And so it's literally like, I don't care about you dying. It's one thing to have that in policies, which is the worst part of it, is also egregious, but to troll about it, I mean, this reflection of how far we've gone as a fucking state. And again, I'll always have to say this, like, how he feels like a political Teflon Don. Like, if any fucking governor is gonna say, well, listen, man, I mean, I don't give a fuck about people dying from COVID. I don't want to be mad. I'm anti-vaxxer, whatever the case may be. Obviously, I'm known this thing. I'm saying what a governor would say, but they would at least like have the political calculations of, okay, but I'm not going to make people think that I'm not taking it serious at all, right? I'm at least going to appear with Frye and Oklahomans. You need to be doing these types of things. I'm doing these types of things. I'm going to appear at some hospitals and encourage the frontline workers. I'm gonna go to some schools with my mask, like doing certain just PR things. You know what I mean? But it's or you could just not. Again, you could just not do a goddamn thing too. Like, that's better than what he's doing. But instead, he is just a fucking bumbling idiot with the world's worst PR team. But that's more reflection on us Oklahomans, because we can't make him fucking pay for this. Right, like, that's the most frustrating thing. It's not that it's just he's a bumbling idiot and Oklahomans are dying from his idiocy. It's that we can't make him pay politically for that, right? So yeah, don't.
Yeah, and like to like Alex's comment in chat. I mean, this doesn't just. It's not just about COVID. Like, if there are no hospital beds or there are no ER places. I mean, I might have told the story before, but like, ERs get crowded. Like, when my son was born, like, we had a issue one night and I had to go to the ER and wait 3 hours because it was overcrowded back then. Now stack a raging pandemic on top of it and people who need care can't get it. And you're just cutting off your face to spite the libs so you can't get a hospital bed when you need it. Like, I just don't get the.
And without a state of emergency declared, hospitals can't do what they were doing last year and earlier this year and make makeshift beds and whatever. So like, there's also, without him declaring a state of emergency, they can't just pop beds up all over, in their conference rooms or fucking out back in a tent or wherever they can. They can't just pop beds up in that way to handle this overflow of not only COVID patients, but people. Like, life is still happening. People are still having heart attacks. People are still having babies. People are still having strokes. Life is still happening. So that is something that's still concerned, outside of COVID, and they can't attempt to handle it because he hasn't passed an emergency declaration. And also, it's not just beds. Like, we don't talk about this enough, but frontline workers, you can have the best bed in the fucking world. If you don't have any nurses to staff the bed, you're fucked. And we don't talk about it enough. Like, we didn't have adequate medical personnel in the state prior to the pandemic. And now we have made them fucking.
Yeah, you can't just magic up nurses and doctors. Like, it's years of schooling and training and all this other shit. Like, if we don't have enough, we don't have enough.
And hold them now over a year, and are still saying, "Fuck y'all, we ain't having kids wear masks." Like, it's like, you know what I mean? And I read an article. I'm not sure what the staffing levels are in Oklahoma, but I know like there's already has been a lot of advertisements for traveling nurses, because a lot of them, with good reason, have left the industry after like the most trying year of modern nursing, right? So like, that's understandable. Pertaining to Frye's hostage video at $12,000 a month. That is simply a reflection of the state not taking it seriously, right? But so it's one thing for Stitt to be a jackass, because he is. He's a dickhead. We know that. But has a responsibility to us and to the state to make sure that, regardless of what Kevin doing, I have to save lives. That is his job. His job is not politics. It's not supposed to be politics. It's supposed to be, I'm supposed to save lives. I don't know if he's just incompetent I don't know. It appears that
No, he's a fucking narcissist. Narcissistic egomaniac is exactly what he is. And I mean, I say this as sort of recognizing that as a thing, but like to read off a script that badly and nobody be willing to tell you, man, this ain't hitting the way we think it should be. Like, let's either do another take or cut this thing down a little bit or hire somebody that knows what they're doing. I mean, get that nice doctor lady that went viral last summer. Like, call her up. Like, you can get her to show up at a press conference. Like, have her read it. Maybe she'll be better, and maybe more people will click on this. But to have Frye there in this stuttery, goofy, like gazing over the camera, dead-eye look. I mean, it's just bad production. And when you need to communicate a message to people, and I want our production quality a lot higher, but like you gotta do it right. You gotta do it so that people can get the message.
And isn't it though like they didn't have time? Because it's clearly something that they rushed out of the door. But this outbreak, this like spike in cases, this is not like, oh my gosh, we woke up today and there's additional X thousand cases. Who saw this coming? Like, we all saw it coming. And if we saw it coming, I hope that the fucking director of our health saw this coming. So this isn't new. This is something that they could have, if Frye needed for us to see his face, he could have fucking pre-recorded these videos.
Yeah, exactly. They could have shot these months ago and just replayed them. Like, it's just embarrassing.
Give me video 17. Kevin Stitt just had some s'mores and motherfuckers are still dying. Give me clip 17. Get it out of the door.
Yeah.
We
know how this is gonna go now, guys. Well, and for shits and giggles, I was looking up Norway today because I think Norway is like actually a great comparison to Oklahoma because it's a 5 million person oil state, obviously massively better run. And probably more oil to some extent, but I mean, we're a major oil producer. They have had 800 COVID deaths since this all started. And they did do lockdowns and some more aggressive stuff, but they didn't do like New Zealand and like seal off the country. I mean, they just took it a lot more seriously and passed rules. 800, they've had 1/10. This is where I get so infuriated about mitigation is like, guys, we don't have to do it all perfect. We don't have to do every little thing. But there is a big difference between 800 and the 8,000 that we've had, and we actually have about 1 million less people. So it's like, do you want to be in the 800 group or do you want to be in the 8,000 group? Like, pick one. And just to forego like even the most simple mitigation, like wearing a mask amongst unvaccinated students, that being like the bridge too far for these morons, I just don't. It's crazy. Is crazy. You're just literally counting dead bodies that could have been avoided. Could have had 1/10 the number of deaths and hospitalizations, and instead we chose this ludicrous route.
The thing though, like that strikes me, and this is kind of a continuing theme of the pandemic, is that none of this shit is surprising. It's sickening, it's sad, it's lunacy, but none of it is surprising. Again, if I had told you 2 years ago, if I told you in 2019, like, listen, bro, it's gonna be a pandemic, the one that everybody's been warning about, like that motherfucker's coming, and that motherfucker's coming, right? And because we have who we have at that point in the White House, and we have who we have at that point in the governor's mansion, we're gonna completely drop the ball. And not only going to completely drop the ball, they're going to lean into stupid, dipshit, conservative cultural grievances to talk about liberty and freedom and all the stupid shit. Motherfuckers going to die because of it. And simple things like wearing a mask that will protect your neighbor, right? Some things like not going to get a bloomin' onion, like not eating your bloomin' onion in the restaurant, just getting it to go. Simple things like that, right? Simple precautions that will save their life and the lives of others. They will not only will they not do them, they will encourage others not to do them. And if that was said to somebody, anyone listening 2 years ago, you would say, "I hope you're wrong, but sounds right." And so when you think about like wearing a mask around children and the stratospheric increase of COVID amongst children, right? Well, and you say, well, the state of Oklahoma doesn't give a fuck about children. Well, yeah. Right. Again, before the pandemic, 1 in 4 children went hungry. They didn't give a fuck about that. Our kids go to school 4 days a week. They didn't give a fuck about that. We have one of the highest childhood poverty rates of any state in America. They didn't give a fuck about that. So, yeah, this is a more extreme example of like we're going to kill you sooner rather than send you on, not prepare you for life, and then incarcerate you if you make the slightest mistake and kill you slower, right? Yeah. But it is a continuation of this death cult that is conservatism. So it's, I mean, again, sickening, sad, depressing, not surprising. And that's the worst thing about it, right? It would be one thing, it's like, I can't believe they're doing this. It's like, yeah, no, they're doing that.